इंडिया यूएस इंटरिम ट्रेड अग्रीमेंट। जैसा कि हम जानते हैं कि हाल फिलहाल में पिछले 6-8 महीने में इंडिया और यूएस के ट्रेड रिलेशंस जो हैं वो बहुत ज़्यादा अच्छे नहीं रहे हैं। Interim trade agreement is a step towards reducing the friction that created in the India-US trade relationship. Trade agreement that can be signed in the future, a broader trade deal, and it is a stepping stone towards. Hello and welcome back to Prep Alpine, the next generation UPSC institution. We are continuing with our high yield UPSC series where we discuss some of the most important topics which have the maximum probability of being asked in your upcoming UPSC exams. Apart from this, we also provide these well researched PDFs of daily current affairs and monthly current affairs, which become extremely important for your prelims and mains exam as well. When you go through these PDFs, you will not only have a conceptual clarity, but even the nuances of the topic will be very much clear to you. And these can be downloaded completely for free from our Telegram channel, the link to which is in the description below. So let us start with today's topic, which is about India-US Interim Trade Agreement. जैसा कि हम जानते हैं कि हाल फिलहाल में पिछले 6-8 महीने में इंडिया और यूएस के ट्रेड रिलेशंस जो हैं वो बहुत ज़्यादा अच्छे नहीं रहे हैं। यूएस ने पहले हम पर 25% का टैरिफ लगाया, फिर 25% का एडिशनल टैरिफ लगाया, जो कि क्यूमुलेटिव टैरिफ केम एट 50%, एंड दिस वाज बिकॉज ऑफ द ट्रेड सरप्लस बिटवीन इंडिया एंड द यूएस एंड इंडियाज डिसीजन टू कंटिन्यू परचेजिंग ऑयल फ्रॉम Russia. And this did not settle well with the US and it decided to impose tariffs on India. And this interim trade agreement is a step towards reducing the friction that created in the India-US trade relationship. It is also a step towards a broader trade agreement that can be signed in the future, a broader trade deal, and it is a stepping stone towards that. But still, there are several concerns that we have to look into. So, first, now let us understand the basics of this trade agreement. If we talk about the core elements, so the tariffs have been reduced from 25% to 18%, yet this is much higher than the pre tariff levels or the pre dispute levels. Apart from this, the US has also agreed to restore the limited market access in selected sectors. India has committed to reduce or eliminate tariffs on selected agricultural and industrial goods. India has agreed to address non-tariff barriers, particularly if we talk about agriculture, then the non-tariff barriers like health standards, sanitary and sanitary measures, they have been decided to be addressed. And lastly, we have planned to increase our purchases from the US when it comes to energy, when it comes to defense, aircraft, technology, coking coal. We have decided that the amount of goods that we purchase, the total amount will be increased in the upcoming 3 to 4 years. So this is not a sudden implementation. This will be a phased implementation both by India and the US. But there are several concerns that are emerging in this sector. First of all, the concern is about our traditionally protected sectors like agriculture, cereals, dairy, and pulses have been traditionally protected in India because हमारी आधा से ज़्यादा जो पॉपुलेशन है वो इसमें एम्प्लॉयड है, और अगर हम इस मार्केट को ओपन करते हैं तो देयर आर हाई चांसेस कि चीप यूएस प्रोडक्ट्स जो हैं वो इंडिया में एंटर कर जाएंगी, जिसकी वजह से हमारा जो डोमेस्टिक प्राइस स्टेबिलिटी है वो वॉलेटाइल हो सकता है, वो वीकेन हो सकता है, हमारे रूरल इनकम्स जो हैं वो यहाँ पर कम हो सकते हैं, और इंडियन फार्मर्स को बहुत ज़्यादा प्रॉब्लम्स जो हैं वो फेस करनी पड़ सकती है. एंड जो रिसेंट न्यूज़ हमको देखने को मिला है उसमें हमको दिख रहा है कि वेदर द एग्रीकल्चर सेक्टर हैज़ बीन ओपनड और नॉट, there is no explicit clarity on that thing. Apart from this, we also have non-tariff barriers and regulatory autonomy. So as I told you that the non-tariff barriers are health standards, quality controls, and biosafety measures. But these are for the good of the people, for public safety and food safety, for public health. But sometimes they are used as disguised trade restrictions. That is, you cannot impose tariff, so you impose such stringent non-tariff barriers that the trade between the two countries is automatically reduced. Then there is also concern about tariff asymmetry and trade balance. Since the pre-dispute level tariff has not been restored, so the concern for India is that the surplus that we used to maintain with the US may come down to a certain level since the tariff levels are not yet pre-dispute levels. Then it will also have an impact on labor sensitive sectors. Definitely it will be positive for the labor sensitive sectors, खास करके अगर हम टेक्सटाइल्स गारमेंट्स और लेबर इंटेंसिव मैन्युफैक्चरिंग की बात करें. बट एक चीज जो हमको ध्यान देनी होगी वो ये है कि ये जो गेन्स हैं वो कंपैरेटिव एडवांटेज पर डिपेंड करेंगे कि जो दूसरी कंट्रीज हैं जिनका यूएस के साथ ट्रेड रिलेशंस है उनको यूएस के साथ ट्रेड अग्रीमेंट का उनको कितना फायदा हो रहा है, इस चीज पर डिपेंड करेगा कि इंडिया को कितना फायदा होगा. फॉर एग्जाम्पल आप जानते होंगे कि बांग्लादेश और यूएस के बीच में अभी रिसेंटली ट्रेड डील साइन हुई है जिसमें बांग्लादेश पर टैरिफ्स जो है वो 19% कर दिए गए हैं. तो इंडिया के पास अब सिर्फ 1% का कॉम्पिटिटिव एडवांटेज है कंसिडरिंग कि टेक्सटाइल्स के सेक्टर में हमारा जो सबसे बड़ा कॉम्पिटिटर अगर हम देखते हैं साउथ एशिया में तो वो हमको बांग्लादेश के रूप में देखने को मिलता है. सो द रिलेटिव कॉम्पिटिटिवनेस दैट इंडिया will have may not significantly improved as expected by the experts. And last and the most important concern is about India's energy sovereignty and strategic autonomy. So India and Russia have been long-term strategic friends, and the decision of India to purchase oil from Russia reflected the strategic autonomy that we have, the sovereignty that we have in making our own decisions. But now, if India decides to cut down its imports of energy or oil from Russia, so this can have an effect on Indian sovereignty and it can affect the strategic autonomy that we have. So the question here that comes is, can trade agreements indirectly influence energy sourcing decisions, indirectly influence strategic autonomy? So this is a very important concern for India. And if we talk for broader economic and strategic implications, so obviously it will increase the exposure of our farmers to subsidized foreign agriculture. It might impose a strain on MSP system and it will have an indirect pressure on procurement and price stability. Talking about food security, then it can affect our domestic procurement buffer system. It can affect our PDS, यानी कि हमारा जो public distribution system है वो. But and strategic autonomy it will obviously influence. But experts also say that there are several positive things about this agreement. First of all, it is a strategic partnership between two major democracies. Since India and US are two of the largest players of the global trade market, so being at dispute with each other is not a solution. And this kind of an agreement reduces trade uncertainty and enhances investor confidence. It will also improve access to the US market and therefore it will be beneficial for the Indian exporters. It will enhance technology access, technology transfer for India and enhance our cooperation in the defense and supply chain resilience. But this can be achieved only if our sensitive sectors are protected. The biosafety and food standards, that is the non-tariff barriers that have been imposed, are rationalized and not arbitrary. They must be scientific and not arbitrary. The tariff concessions that we grant must be reciprocal and balanced. They should not be tilted towards the benefit of only one country. The energy sourcing decisions should be based on our own national interest and not on the influence of any other country. And lastly, any dispute must be resolved within transparent stakeholder consultation. So such a consultation mechanism should be institutionalized, because the first and the foremost thing that is important for India is our own national interest, whether it is about protecting our livelihoods, ensuring our security, food security, or preserving our sovereign decision making. All these are the national priorities apart from trade. So therefore, a balanced and transparent final agreement, because since this is a temporary agreement, so the final agreement that we will have with US must reconcile deeper economic integration with developmental resilience, because strategic autonomy is something that we cannot give up upon. just because we want to strengthen our trade relationships. So the ambiguities related to agriculture or tariff asymmetry, regulatory autonomy, or energy sovereignty, all these need careful scrutiny, and we must resolve this before a permanent trade deal between India and the US are taken care of. So this topic become extremely important from GS2 international relations perspective. It is also important from GS3, that is food security and economy perspective. And for prelims also it becomes very important. So that's it for this video. If you want more such content, please subscribe to the channel and keep watching Prep Alpine. Thank you.